The call came just after 7 p.m., right as I was pouring a glass of wine after a long day at the firm. My sister's name flashed across the screen. Vanessa. It had been months since she'd bothered to call. I almost let it go to voicemail. I should have. Instead, I answered, and the sobs on the other end were instant. "Emma," she gasped, her voice shaking. "It's bad. It's really bad." I set my glass down, already bracing. Vanessa had always been dramatic, but something about the way she said it made my stomach tighten. "What happened?" She sucked in a shaky breath. "I have." A pause, a stifled sob. "Stage 4 cancer." The words landed like a hammer. I felt the air in the room shift, the heaviness settle over me. "When, how?" my voice caught. "2 weeks ago." Another sniffle. "I didn't want to tell anyone yet. I was hoping." A shuddering breath. "But it's too late. They say I have 6 months. Maybe less." The air turned thick, suffocating. "Vanessa," I whispered. Are you sure?" "Of course I'm sure," she snapped, her voice breaking in the middle. "I wouldn't lie about this, Emma." I swallowed hard. "What did the doctors say?" "It's everywhere," she choked out. "They said treatments won't save me. Just prolong the suffering." My mind raced, flipping through the logical next steps. Second opinions, specialist referrals. But before I could speak, she cut me off. "I told Mom and Dad already. They're devastated. Dad," her voice cracked. "He's not handling it well." Closed my eyes. Of course she'd told them first. "Emma, I need you," she whispered. "I can't do this alone." I exhaled slowly. "I'm here." And just like that, I stepped into the lie. 3 days after Vanessa's phone call, our parents hosted a family dinner. It was supposed to be a show of support, a way to rally around her in this final chapter of her life. Instead, it was a stage for Vanessa's next act. She arrived in a flowing cardigan, her makeup softer than usual, her hair left loose, subtle but deliberate. The perfect image of fragile beauty. Dad looked 10 years older already. His eyes, always sharp and calculating, were now rimmed red. Mom hovered near Vanessa, her face tight with barely contained grief. "I've been thinking a lot," Vanessa began, dabbing at her dry eyes with a tissue. "About what happens when I'm gone." Silence. The kind that forces everyone to lean in. "I don't want to leave a mess for you all to clean up," she continued, voice trembling. "I need to make sure things are taken care of. While I still can." Dad nodded. "Of course, sweetheart. We'll handle everything." She hesitated, then cast her gaze downward, just enough to let the next words tremble with vulnerability. I don't want to sound selfish," she whispered. "But if something happens to Dad before I go, I won't have anything. No security. No home." Gasp. Perfect timing. "Sweetheart." Dad reached for her hand. "You'll always have security." Vanessa bit her lip. I know Emma's always been stable. She has her career, her own finances. But she let out a shaky breath. "I don't have that luxury. Not anymore." I felt my stomach turn. "Vanessa," I said carefully, "I don't think we need to make this decision right now." She flinched, as if my words physically hurt her. "Brilliant." "You don't understand," she whispered, eyes glassy. "I don't have time, Emma." Dad's expression hardened. "Emma, she's right. We should handle this now, while she can still make decisions for herself." Vanessa turned away, feigning strength she wasn't actually using. Could see it clear as day. The way she played them, how effortlessly she pulled every emotional string. By the end of the night, she had convinced them to change the will. And just like that, Vanessa had set the trap. The first thing that felt off was how easy Vanessa made dying look. 2 weeks after the will was changed, I expected to see signs. The fatigue, the weight loss, the quiet suffering that came with aggressive cancer. But Vanessa wasn't wilting. She was thriving. She had always been high maintenance, but now she was glowing. Fresh highlights, weekly manicures, shopping bags from high-end boutiques. Not exactly the image of a woman in the depths of stage 4 agony. You have to enjoy the time you have left, she sighed dramatically over lunch one afternoon. I've been reading about how important it is to live with no regrets. I nodded slowly as she sipped her cocktail, a neon blue monstrosity I was fairly certain no oncologist would approve. What about treatment? I asked, watching her carefully. You said you were starting chemo. Vanessa hesitated, just for a second. Then she plastered on a tragic smile. Oh, Emma. That was the original plan, but my specialist in LA, the best in the country by the way, said I should focus on quality of life. Chemo would only prolong the inevitable. Specialist in LA. I repeated. Who's the doctor? She waved a dismissive hand. Oh, you wouldn't know him. He doesn't really do patient consultations anymore. Mostly research. But he's making an exception for me. Course he was. Pushed a little more. I'd love to read over your treatment plan. Just to understand. Vanessa sighed, eyes full of pained wisdom. Emma, I appreciate that you're a facts and figures person, but you can't logic your way through this. You have to trust me. That was the problem. I didn't. So I started digging. The hospital she claimed to be treated at had no record of her. The so-called specialist didn't exist. The medications she mentioned weren't found in any reputable oncology databases. What I did find: a new apartment lease in a luxury high-rise downtown, an exotic vacation booking for the Maldives, and bank statements showing thousands withdrawn from our father's account in just the past 2 weeks. Vanessa wasn't dying. She was cashing out. The moment she made her first mistake, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. It was a Sunday night, another family dinner that Mom insisted on hosting to make the most of our time together. Vanessa showed up late, smelling like coconut oil and expensive perfume, dressed in a silky wrap dress that clung to her like she had just walked out of a vacation ad. Dad was already seated at the table, eyes lighting up at the sight of her. How was your week, sweetheart? You've been so busy, we hardly hear from you. Vanessa let out a dramatic sigh, settling into her chair. Ugh, exhausting. The chemo is just brutal. I looked up from my plate. Chemo. You had a session this week. She nodded solemnly, reaching for a bread roll. Friday. It wiped me out. Interesting. Which facility? Yes. She blinked. A flicker of hesitation. UCLA Medical, she answered quickly. They're cutting edge. I took a slow sip of my wine. That's strange. Weren't you at the Ritz-Carlton Spa on Friday? The one downtown. Silence. Be too long. Then she laughed, shaking her head. Oh, Emma. You're so detail-oriented it's scary. It's a simple question. Dad frowned, looking between us. Vanessa, were you at the spa? She rolled her eyes, sighing as if she were exhausted by my paranoia. It was after treatment, okay? I needed something to help with the nausea. Aromatherapy is very healing, you know. Weak save. I watched as Mom reached out, squeezing Vanessa's hand with tearful understanding. But Dad. He hesitated, just for a second. Crack in the blind devotion. It wasn't enough to change anything yet. But it was a start. And I wasn't done collecting evidence. Vanessa had always been a liar, but this was next-level deception. I sat at my desk late into the night, my laptop open, the soft glow of the screen reflecting off the untouched glass of wine beside me. Time to verify the unprovable. First, I called UCLA Medical, where she claimed she was receiving treatment. My position at the firm gave me access to people who could check things quietly. I kept my tone professional, detached. I need to confirm treatment details for a family member. The woman on the other end of the line hummed, typing in the background. Patient name. I took a slow breath. Vanessa Carter. Silence. Then, I'm sorry, we don't have a patient by that name in our oncology department. I let the words settle before pressing on. What about any alias? Sometimes patients. No record, she cut in, voice apologetic. Are you sure this is the correct facility? Clenched my jaw. I'm sure. The next call was to the so-called specialist in LA, the one who was making an exception for Vanessa. His office didn't exist. The number was fake. It was official. Vanessa had fabricated everything. That night I made another call, to a private investigator I had worked with on corporate fraud cases. His name was Grant Peterson, a former FBI analyst who specialized in following the money. I need to know everything, I told him. Where she's going, what she's spending, who she's meeting. He chuckled. Sounds like a good one. It's not just good, I said, staring at my laptop. It's criminal. And I was going to prove it. Grant worked fast. Within a week, he handed me a full financial report on Vanessa. I flipped through the pages, my stomach tightening at what I saw. The family accounts, the ones Dad had given Vanessa access to for medical expenses, were bleeding out. She had withdrawn tens of thousands in just a few weeks. And where was it going? Not to hospitals, not to treatment, but to luxury shopping sprees at designer boutiques. First-class flights to Paris, Dubai, and Tokyo. Down payments on a penthouse apartment. A brand new Tesla, fully loaded. She was living it up, all while pretending to be on death's doorstep. I closed the file, my hands steady despite the anger pulsing beneath my skin. It wasn't just about money. It was about Dad's trust, his health, his last years being tainted by this lie. Vanessa thought she was untouchable, that no one would question the tragic daughter wasting away. But she had no idea what was coming. I documented everything, every transaction, every fraudulent withdrawal, every discrepancy. This wasn't about confronting her. Not yet. This was about building a case. And when I was ready, I wouldn't just expose her. I would ruin her. Vanessa was impossible to get alone. It took 3 ignored calls, 1 fake emergency text, and an unexpected visit to her downtown penthouse before I finally cornered her. She opened the door in a silk robe, barefoot, a glass of white wine in one hand. Terminal illness looked good on her. I stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Her smile faltered. Wow. No pleasantries. I held up a folder, thick, full of bank statements, flight receipts, and falsified medical claims. We need to talk. My voice was calm, unshaken, because I had her. Vanessa glanced at the folder and laughed. What's this? Your latest conspiracy theory. You're not dying, I said bluntly. You're stealing. The silence stretched. Her fingers tightened around the wine glass. I dropped the folder onto the marble kitchen counter. I called UCLA Medical. They've never heard of you. The specialist in LA. The chemotherapy sessions. Didn't happen. A flicker of something, panic, crossed her face. Then, just as fast, she recovered. She sighed dramatically. You have no idea what you're talking about. I stepped closer. Oh, I do. I have bank records, Vanessa. You've been siphoning Dad's money for months. You have a new penthouse, a new car, a wardrobe worth more than some people's salaries. Her eyes narrowed, the false sweetness vanishing. So what? You jealous? You always did hate that Dad favored me. I laughed, shaking my head. This isn't about favoritism. It's about you lying to a dying man to drain his bank account. That's when she snapped. You're a heartless bitch, she hissed, stepping closer, voice low and venomous. Dad is giving me what I deserve. What I need. You just can't stand that for once. You're not the one in control. Then, she did what I should have seen coming. She pulled out her phone and sent a mass text to the family, claiming I was harassing her. That I was attacking her in her final months. That I was jealous she was getting more from the will. By the time I left, Mom was calling me in tears, begging me to stop. Vanessa had won this round. But I wasn't finished. Dad collapsed 3 days later. It wasn't a heart attack, just stress-induced exhaustion. But when the doctor admitted him, he warned that his heart wasn't strong enough for this kind of emotional strain. Vanessa, of course, turned it into a performance. At the hospital, she sat beside him, holding his hand, looking fragile and delicate, soaking up every bit of sympathy from the nurses, the family, even the doctor. "He just worries about me too much," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. "It's so hard on him, knowing I won't be here much longer." Mom dabbed at her eyes, nodding in blind agreement. "He's been losing sleep over the will, making sure she's taken care of." Meanwhile, Vanessa looked perfectly fine. No weight loss, no frailty, no sign of months of chemotherapy or late-stage illness. I had stayed quiet since our last conversation, choosing my next move carefully. I had one goal now: find the final proof that would destroy her. I started digging deeper. Since Vanessa had thrown me under the bus with the family, I stopped playing nice. Through my legal connections, I got access to financial records she thought were hidden. Offshore accounts, side investments, an entire separate bank account under a different name. That's where I found it, the last nail in her coffin. A $250,000 transfer from my father's trust fund into her secret account, marked as medical expenses. Money she had used for luxury goods, spa treatments, and first-class travel. That was it. She could lie to the family. She could manipulate emotions. But she couldn't explain that away. This wasn't just a scam. This was fraud. And I was about to end her. Vanessa had always been greedy. It was her weakness, her Achilles heel, the thing that would bury her. I met with Grant, my private investigator, over coffee the next morning. I laid out my plan, and he gave me a slow, approving nod. "You sure she'll take the bait?" he asked. Smirk. "She won't be able to resist." The setup was simple. A new experimental cancer treatment fund, supposedly available only to terminal patients in financial need. We leaked the information strategically, through a friend of a friend, someone Vanessa would trust. Within 48 hours she bit. "I hate to ask," Vanessa texted our mother, playing the reluctant martyr, "but there's a special fund for cancer patients. Could give me a few more months, maybe even a chance to fight this. I need to submit my paperwork fast before the funding runs out." Mom predictably fell for it instantly. Encouraged her. Supported her. And Vanessa, she forged everything. Fake medical records. A fabricated oncologist's signature. False claims about chemotherapy treatments she never received. Everything was documented. Time-stamped. Recorded. Irrefutable. Grant had a trusted legal contact at the fund who processed the application, just enough to get her signature on the fraudulent paperwork. The second she hit submit, it was over. Vanessa had just committed wire fraud. And she had no idea. The next morning I sat across from Dad's lawyer, a thick file in front of me. "Are you absolutely sure?" he asked, flipping through the damning paperwork. He nodded. 100%. He exhaled slowly. "This is enough to reverse the will changes." That was step 1. Step 2. Letting Vanessa's world collapse in on itself. I leaked one simple piece of information, anonymously of course, to a family friend known for gossiping. "Did you hear? Vanessa got caught faking medical records for a cancer fund." Spread like wildfire. Within hours the whispers started. Old friends started asking questions. People who had donated money wanted proof of her illness. The charity board Vanessa had once been part of quietly removed her name from their website. By the end of the day, even Mom looked shaken. Then the final blow. A well-connected socialite Vanessa had been cozying up to posted a vague but scathing Instagram story. It's always the ones you least expect. Lying about something like that. Pathetic. Can't believe we were fooled. Vanessa had officially lost control of the narrative. Her perfect, tragic story was falling apart. And I wasn't done yet. Dad collapsed in the middle of the living room. 1 minute, he was reading through the evidence. Grant's files, the fraudulent medical records, the bank statements showing how much Vanessa had drained from his accounts. The next, his face went ashen, his breathing ragged. Mom screamed as I rushed forward, grabbing Dad before he could hit the floor. I called 911 while Mom sobbed next to me, gripping his hand. Vanessa. She stood frozen, speechless for once in her life. At the hospital, The doctor's words were careful but firm. Stress-induced cardiac episode. Not a heart attack but dangerously close. Dad was awake but weak. And the first words out of his mouth were, "Tell me it's not true." Vanessa sat at the edge of his bed, face pale but dry-eyed, looking every bit the concerned daughter. She put on her best soft, fragile voice. "Daddy, I was just trying to prepare for the worst. I was scared." I shoved the folder onto the hospital tray in front of him. Don't sit here and lie to his face." He opened the file with trembling hands, flipping through each page. The fake doctor's notes, the fake financial statements, the proof that she had never stepped foot inside an oncology ward. Tears welled in his eyes, his entire body shaking. "I gave you everything," he whispered. "I changed my will for you. I thought I was going to lose my little girl." And just like that, something inside him broke. He turned his head away. Couldn't even look at her. Vanessa burst into tears then, but not real ones. These were for show. The fallout was immediate. Family members pulled away. Whispers of "how could she" spread like wildfire. Old friends stopped responding to her messages. People who had donated money called, demanding refunds. Then came the real hammer. The authorities got involved. Fraud, forgery, financial theft. Vanessa had no idea how deep of a grave she had dug for herself. But I did. And I was about to bury her in it. I found Vanessa at her apartment, though it wouldn't be hers for much longer. Her landlord was already preparing to evict her. The luxury bags, the designer furniture, all purchased with stolen money. The car, seized. The accounts, frozen. She opened the door in a baggy sweatshirt, her perfect image shattered. She knew why I was here. I stepped inside, dropping the last folder of evidence onto her coffee table. "You have two choices." She crossed her arms, glaring at me like a petulant child. "Choice one," I said. "You return the stolen money, admit the truth to the family, and quietly disappear." Her jaw clenched. "And option two." I leaned in, voice calm and lethal. "Fight back. Take this to court. And I will make sure you go to prison." Her breath hitched. I could see her brain scrambling for an escape route. I can explain," she started, her voice trembling now. "You don't get it, Emma." I was struggling. I shook my head. "No, you wanted. There's a difference." She collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't do this. We're sisters." I watched her for a moment, waiting for even a flicker of genuine remorse. There was none. I picked up my folder and headed for the door. "Choice one, Vanessa," I said over my shoulder. "It's the only mercy you're going to get." And then I walked away. Her fate was already sealed. Dad didn't hesitate. The day after Vanessa's final failed performance, he called his lawyer and officially disowned her. The will was rewritten, the rightful balance restored. "She's dead to me," he muttered, voice raw as he signed the paperwork. "I don't have a daughter named Vanessa." It should have felt like a victory, but all I felt was relief. Relief that Dad finally saw her for what she was. Vanessa, of course, spiraled. Her texts went from pleading to furious in the span of 24 hours. "You turned him against me. You've always been jealous. You ruined my life, Emma." "No, Vanessa. You did that all on your own." Then came the lawsuits. Aunts and uncles who had donated thousands for her treatments filed fraud claims. Friends who had given her money expecting it to go toward hospital bills demanded repayment. Charities she had partnered with took legal action. Her accounts were frozen. Her apartment lease revoked. And, perhaps my favorite part, her name went public. A well-known financial blog caught wind of the scandal, publishing an article titled, "Socialite Fakes Cancer, Steals Thousands from Family and Friends, The Truth Behind the Scam." The comments tore her apart. "Disgusting. I hope she rots. Imagine stealing from your dying father. No punishment is enough. This woman deserves jail." Vanessa was officially a pariah. I watched it all unfold with the same detached calm I had carried through every phase of this takedown. She had spent months, maybe years, believing she was untouchable. That her beauty, her charm, her manipulations would always save her. But now she was nothing. And for the first time, she had no one to blame but herself. Vanessa fled town. She didn't announce it. She didn't send a dramatic farewell message. She just vanished, probably hoping that if she laid low long enough, the scandal would fade. It wouldn't. No one wanted her back. No one missed her. She had burned every bridge she had ever built. Dad's recovery was slow but steady. The hospital stay had shaken him, but now, without Vanessa draining him emotionally and financially, he was healing. I helped him restructure the estate, tightening the legal protections, ensuring that no one could ever manipulate him like that again. Mom took longer to process everything. She had wanted to believe Vanessa so badly. Had clung to the idea that her eldest daughter wasn't capable of something so cruel. One night, as I was helping Dad organize paperwork, Mom sat beside me and exhaled shakily. "I was wrong about her," she whispered. "And I was wrong about you." I looked at her, waiting. She reached for my hand. "I should have believed you, Emma. From the start." I nodded, accepting the words, even if they had come too late. Vanessa had spent her whole life underestimating me. She had assumed I would let things go, that I would back down, that I would crumble under the pressure of family guilt. She had been wrong. Now she was gone. And life, for the first time in a long time, was peaceful. The first few months after Vanessa's downfall were quiet. Too quiet. For so long, my life had revolved around proving the truth, gathering evidence, and exposing her lies. Now that it was over, I almost didn't know what to do with the silence. Vanessa had vanished completely. No social media, no desperate attempts to rebuild her reputation, no texts trying to worm her way back into our parents' good graces. No one asked about her. No one cared. She was forgotten. And for someone like Vanessa, that was worse than any prison sentence. Dad was doing better, stronger, healthier. The stress that had been slowly killing him had lifted the moment he cut Vanessa from his life. He spent more time with me now, discussing the estate plans, investments, and future security measures. He had finally trusted the right daughter. Mom was different now, too. She had once clung to Vanessa's every word, blindly defending her no matter what. But after everything, she had changed, not just in how she saw Vanessa but in how she saw me. One evening, as I was sorting through legal documents at Dad's request, she sat beside me, running her hands over an old family photo. "We should have seen her for what she was," she murmured. I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because in the end they did see it. Maybe it took too long. Maybe it cost too much. But they saw it. I thought about everything I had done. I had waited, had watched, had built my case. I never let my emotions cloud my judgment. I hadn't lashed out. I had let Vanessa destroy herself. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. And I had won. Vanessa had spent her life believing she was the golden child, the favorite, the irreplaceable one. But now she was nothing. No inheritance. No family. No legacy. I was the one who had protected what mattered. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't in her shadow anymore. I was exactly where I belonged. Want to hear more of this? Then click on the video on the right-hand side, which is even more brutal.